Right. So today we're gonna take a deep dive into DeepSeek R1. This is a Chinese AI model that's been really making some noise in the AI world. And as someone who I know follows the AI world pretty closely, you're probably pretty curious about this one. And trust me, it's a pretty interesting story. So just to give you a little bit of context, in just 2 weeks, DeepSeek R1 rose to the top of the AI charts, surpassing even some of the really big names out there. I mean, that kind of rapid rise is pretty much unheard of in this space. So what is it about DeepSeek R1 that's driving this meteoric rise?
Well, for one thing, it has a very unique hybrid architecture. It operates on a surprisingly low power setup. And then get this, it's entirely open source. So yeah, I'm definitely intrigued. But for a while now, the US has been the kind of the undisputed champ when it comes to AI. We're talking about companies like OpenAI, Google, Meta, other ways, real heavy hitters. So to see DeepSeek R1 not just enter the scene, but actually climb the ranks so quickly, even outperforming some of the big names like ChatGPT. I mean, it's a pretty big shakeup.
Yeah, it's a significant shift for sure. It's especially interesting when you consider that a lot of the Chinese AI companies, like Alibaba and Baidu, they've historically had trouble kind of keeping pace with their counterparts in the U.S.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So what's different this time around? Is DeepSeek R1 just another copycat, or is there something more to this story?
Well, the thing about DeepSeek R1 is that it's not really just replicating what's already out there. It's taking a different approach. They've really focused on building an efficient system, a system that's designed to solve problems in new and innovative ways. And that's something that's really resonating with the AI community.
Okay, so let's break down some of these features that have everyone buzzing. First up, we've got this hybrid architecture and something called chain of thought reasoning. Now, I'll admit the technical jargon can get a bit overwhelming. Could you maybe break that down for us?
Sure. So imagine you're trying to solve a puzzle. You wouldn't just start randomly trying pieces, would you? You'd probably think through the steps, consider the patterns, and you would kind of build a logical chain of thought to reach the solution. And that's essentially what DeepSeek R1 is doing with this chain of thought reasoning. It's processing information in a more human-like way, making connections and building these logical pathways to arrive at a conclusion.
So instead of just like brute forcing its way to an answer, it's actually thinking things through. That's pretty amazing. And then on top of that, you've got the fact that DeepSeek R1 is open source. What does that mean in practical terms for someone like me or, even a larger company?
Well, it means that the code behind DeepSeek R1 is available for anyone to use, to modify, even to distribute. You can kind of think of it like a recipe that's been shared with the world. You can take that recipe, you can tweak it to your liking, maybe add your own special ingredient, and create something entirely new.
So it's not just about using the AI, it's about having the freedom to explore it, to
Mhm.
experiment with it, and maybe even contribute to its development.
Exactly. And that's a pretty radical departure from the closed source models that we often see coming out of these US companies. This really levels the playing field. It allows individuals, smaller organizations, even countries with limited resources to get involved in this AI revolution.
That accessibility seems like a real game changer, especially when you think about, the current global landscape.
Yeah, and remember those US export restrictions on high-performance chips? Well, those restrictions have made it really difficult for some countries to access the hardware that's necessary to develop and run advanced AI models.
Oh yeah, I remember those. Those were meant to slow down China's AI development,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But what DeepSeek did was they actually turned that challenge into an advantage. Instead of relying on these restricted high-power chips, they focused on building a model that could run efficiently on readily available lower-power hardware.
Okay, so they basically said, "Hey, we're going to make our AI so efficient that we don't even need those fancy chips." That's pretty impressive, and they didn't stop there either. DeepSeek R1 is also it's kind of a media powerhouse, wouldn't you say?
Oh, it is. It is. It can create written content, generate images, even produce video summaries, and its ability to detect deepfakes is particularly noteworthy.
Yeah, deepfakes have been a growing concern, so having an AI that can help us identify those is a huge plus.
Absolutely. But it's not just about identifying what's fake. DeepSeek R1 can also help us create genuine content in a more efficient and engaging way.
So we've got this incredibly efficient AI that can reason like a human. It's accessible to practically anyone, and it's got these impressive media capabilities. It's a lot to process. So where do we even go from here?
Well, I think the real question is, what does this all mean for the future of AI? Is DeepSeek R1 just a flash in the pan? Or is it a sign of things to come?
Welcome back to our deep dive into DeepSeek R1. We've been talking about this really impressive new AI coming out of China, and how it's really shaking things up in the AI world. But before we go too far, I think it's important to take a step back and understand who's behind this. Who are the people who actually built DeepSeek R1?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, understanding the minds behind a technology like this, it can really give us some insights into, its development and maybe even its potential future.
Exactly. So, what can you tell us about the DeepSeek team?
Well, DeepSeek is a fairly young startup, but the team is made up of some real veterans in the AI world. We're talking former researchers and engineers from companies like Baidu and Huawei, places that have been at the forefront of AI research and development in China for years.
So these aren't just, some wide-eyed idealists. These are people who really know the ins and outs of AI.
Absolutely. And they've managed to attract some significant investment from some major players in the Chinese tech scene. So they have the talent, they have the vision, and they definitely have the resources to make a real impact.
Now, we've talked a lot about DeepSeek R1 being open source and how that kind of sets it apart from a lot of the other AI models out there. But for those of us who aren't programmers, can you explain what that actually means in practice? What can you actually do with an open source AI?
Well, open source means that the code, the blueprint of DeepSeek R1, it's freely available for anyone to use, to modify, to distribute. It's like having the instructions to build a car. But instead of just building the same car over and over again, you can tinker with the engine, you can redesign the body, you could even turn it into a flying machine if you were feeling ambitious.
So instead of just being limited to using the AI as is, you can actually get under the hood and customize it.
Exactly. And that opens up a whole world of possibilities. Yeah. For individuals, smaller organizations, people who might not have the resources to develop their own AI from scratch. They can now leverage the power of DeepSeek R1 and tailor to their own specific needs.
Now, you mentioned earlier that some people are calling open source the future of AI, but I imagine there are also some concerns about making such a powerful technology so widely accessible.
Oh, there are definitely concerns. I mean, whenever you democratize access to powerful tools, there's always the potential for misuse.
Right. Could someone with bad intentions take this open source code
Yeah.
and use it to create harmful things like, more sophisticated deepfakes
Yeah.
or even autonomous weapons?
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And it's something that the AI community is actively discussing and working to address. There's this growing recognition that, along with this incredible potential of AI,
Yeah.
we also need to be mindful of the ethical implications and, the potential risks.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about how we use it and the safeguards we put in place.
Precisely. It's like giving everyone access to a really powerful tool,
Yeah.
but also, providing the instruction manual and the safety guidelines to make sure it's used responsibly.
Now, how have the established players in the AI world, those big US companies we talked about earlier, how have they responded to this open source approach? Are they feeling the heat?
I think they're definitely paying attention. In fact, we're already seeing some of them starting to shift their strategies and kind of dipping their toes into these open source waters. Google, for example, they've recently open sourced some of their own AI tools, and Meta has been increasingly active in supporting open source AI projects.
So it seems like DeepSeek R1 might be pushing the entire AI industry in a new direction, towards more openness and collaboration.
It's certainly a possibility, and it'll be really interesting to see how this all plays out in the coming years. Will open source become the dominant model for AI development, or will we see, maybe a balance between open and closed systems?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But it's clear that DeepSeek R1 has shaken things up, and it's brought some much-needed fresh air into this AI landscape. Now let's go back to DeepSeek R1's ability to run on lower power hardware. We touched on this earlier, but can you explain how that's even possible? Don't most AI models require those super expensive high-powered chips?
Well, that's the conventional wisdom.
Yeah.
But DeepSeek has really challenged that assumption. They took a different approach, focusing on optimizing their algorithms for efficiency. It's kind of like designing a car that can get incredible mileage, on a smaller, more fuel-efficient engine.
So they're basically squeezing more performance out of less powerful hardware.
Exactly. And it's a brilliant strategy,
Yeah.
especially given those restrictions we talked about on accessing those high-performance chips.
Right, and what does that mean for the accessibility of AI in general? If you don't need a supercomputer to run these models, what does that open up?
Well, it opens up AI to a much wider range of users. Imagine being able to run sophisticated AI models on your smartphone, your laptop, or even on small embedded devices.
That could revolutionize industries like healthcare, education, even manufacturing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Suddenly, AI is no longer limited to, large corporations and research institutions. It becomes a tool that anyone with, a decent computer can use.
That's a really powerful idea. So we've got this incredibly efficient AI that's open for anyone to use, and it doesn't require this massive investment in hardware. That's pretty impressive. But what can it actually do? I mean, we talked about its media capabilities earlier. Can you give us some concrete examples of how DeepSeek R1 is being used in the real world?
Yeah, it really is remarkable to see how this DeepSeek R1 is changing the game. But, it's not just about the technology itself, is it? It's about these larger implications, these ripple effects that this kind of development sends throughout the AI world.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we've been focusing on the nuts and bolts of DeepSeek R1, its features, its capabilities, this whole open source nature. But now I'm really curious to kind of zoom out and explore the bigger picture. What does the rise of DeepSeek R1 tell us about the future of AI, especially on this kind of global scale?
I think it really signals a shift in the global AI landscape. For years, the U.S. has been the dominant force in AI, you know. But DeepSeek R1's success shows that other countries, particularly China, they're catching up. And in some areas, they're even surging ahead.
So we're moving away from this U.S.-centric AI world
Hmm.
to a more multipolar landscape where innovation is coming from different corners of the globe.
Exactly. And that's going to lead to a more diverse and competitive AI ecosystem. We can expect to see new ideas, new approaches, new solutions emerging from different cultures and perspectives.
That sounds incredibly exciting, but also a bit daunting, if I'm honest. What does this shift mean for someone like me? An everyday user of AI. How will this multipolar AI world affect my life?
Well, for one thing, you can expect to see a much wider range of AI tools and services becoming available. We're no longer limited to the offerings of a few big U.S. tech companies. We'll have more choices, more options to find AI solutions that fit our specific needs and preferences.
So instead of this one-size-fits-all approach to AI, we're going to have a more personalized and tailored experience.
Exactly. And with this increased competition, we can also expect to see more affordable AI solutions. DeepSeek R1 has proven that you don't need the most expensive hardware and infrastructure to achieve impressive results.
That's great news, especially for smaller businesses, startups, individuals who might not have had access to those expensive AI tools before.
Right? It's about democratizing access to AI, making it available to a wider range of users. And as AI becomes more accessible and affordable, we can expect to see its impact grow across various sectors.
Speaking of impact, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how DeepSeek R1 and this kind of broader shift in the AI landscape might affect specific industries. Let's start with healthcare. How could this change the way we diagnose and treat diseases?
Well, in healthcare, we could see AI-powered diagnostic tools becoming more widely available, leading to earlier and more accurate disease detection. Imagine a world where your smartphone could analyze your symptoms and provide, preliminary diagnoses, or where AI algorithms could help doctors identify subtle patterns in medical images that might be missed by the human eye.
That could be revolutionary,
Yeah.
especially for people in remote areas or those who don't have easy access to specialists.
Exactly. And it's not just about diagnosis. AI could also play a significant role in personalized medicine, tailoring treatments to individual patients based on their genetic makeup, lifestyle, other factors.
Wow, that's incredible. What about education? How could DeepSeek R1 and this new wave of AI change the way we learn and teach?
Well, AI could personalize learning experiences, tailoring educational content to individual student needs and learning styles. Imagine AI tutors that can adapt to each student's pace and provide personalized feedback, or AI-powered platforms that can identify students who are struggling and provide targeted support.
So it sounds like AI could make education more engaging, more effective, and more accessible for everyone.
That's the goal. And it's not just healthcare and education. We can expect to see AI transforming industries like manufacturing, finance, transportation, entertainment. I mean, the possibilities are really vast.
It's clear that DeepSeek R1 is more than just a cool new AI model. It's a symbol of a changing world, a world where AI is becoming more global, more accessible, and more impactful than ever before.
I completely agree. It's a time of great opportunity and also great responsibility. As AI becomes more integrated into our lives, it's crucial that we consider the ethical implications and ensure that it's used for good.
Well said. As we wrap up this deep dive into DeepSeek R1, I'm left with the sense of awe and excitement. It feels like we're on the cusp of a new era in AI, an era driven by innovation, collaboration, and a truly global perspective.
Yeah, it's an exciting time to be alive, that's for sure. And I, for one, can't wait to see what the future holds for AI and for humanity.
Well, that concludes our deep dive into DeepSeek R1. We hope this has given you a deeper understanding of this game-changing AI model and its implications for the future. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the ever-evolving world of artificial intelligence.